We must not wait another day for another New Yorker to become a crime victim at the hand of these disastrous policies. I've been traveling all over the state, and before these radical laws even took hold this past January, law enforcement and citizens have been outraged to see our entire criminal justice system upended, all for the purposes of scoring cheap political points with a radical left that are controlling our state government. And no matter how hard Cuomo and the Democrats try to hide from the facts, smear the truth tellers in outrageous, offensive attacks to cover up their mess, they cannot hide from the truth. They rammed these laws through in budget spending bills in the middle of the night with no public hearings and no input from law enforcement. It was a party line vote, and Andrew Cuomo signed it into law proudly. The only reason he's backtracking today is because he's facing the wrath of the voters, and his poll numbers have taken a tremendous hit. So now he's trying to save his hide and the hides of his fellow Democrats because they are on the line. The fact that they refuse to do anything for this long is not good enough. It's not good enough for the countless crime victims at the hands of career criminals who have been given get-out-of-jail-free cards. It's not good enough for the family of the 27-year-old Buffalo State College graduate whose life was stolen by a drunken driver. It's not good enough for the victims of rape and the hundreds of victims of domestic violence whose attackers were let out again. It's not good enough for the parents and the children who have been solicited by sex offenders, some right here in Broome County. It's not good enough for the victims of hate crimes by a serial attacker in New York City who targeted people for what God they prayed to. It's not good enough for any of the residents of Broome County and across the state of New York who've been injured or violated at the hands of criminals who are reveling in these new laws. It's wreaking havoc on civilized society in the rule of law, and criminals absolutely love it. A man who was arrested 142 times, and that's not a typo in my notes, 142 times, called bail reform lit. And another career offender said Andrew Cuomo ought to run for president after he accomplishes. Hardworking, law-abiding, tax-paying New Yorkers get zero respect from their state government, while criminals are catered to and coddled. It's pure insanity. This is the result of one-party Democrat rule, which has been an unmitigated disaster for the taxpayers and the security of the citizens of the state of New York. But Cuomo and the Democrats have underestimated the people of this state who have had enough. People are paying attention, and they're outraged at what's going on. They're ready to hold them accountable this November. And we are traveling to every corner of this state, all 62 counties, to tell people that it doesn't have to be this way. Democrats across this state are being put on notice. We will not rest until safety and security is restored in the great state of New York. God bless you all.
I find it laughable, quite frankly, that many of the Democrats who sponsored this legislation are now walking back on that issue, saying we have to make changes, or I didn't really read the bill as well as I should have. Well, again, they're responsible for this. We do have to make changes. I think it's incredibly important for me to say this, that just because you are pro-repeal does not mean you are anti-reform. What happened to Khalif Browder should have never happened, right? We could all agree on that. But as I said in Albany to the sponsors of this legislation, if you are going to have serious conversations about reforming a system, do that, but do that with the professionals, do that with the district attorneys, do that with members of law enforcement at the table, having them at the table and make them part of the conversation. None of that happened. What I also asked for was make sure that during this conversation about reforming a system, you don't dismantle the criminal justice system. And that is unfortunately exactly what has happened. The Democrats from New York City, and quite frankly from upstate, passed this legislation and dismantled the entire criminal justice system, making New Yorkers less safe. And once again, unfortunately, under one-party rule, we are putting criminals before law-abiding citizens, and it's shameful. It surely is.
Everyone is open to the concept of reform, but it has to make sense, and it has to take place with the voices of all of the people that are involved having a seat at the table. I can tell you through the New York Conference of Mayors, this is an issue that is a top priority and a top concern of mayors of all parties. This cannot be something that goes months and months and months without a resolution. And we see these stories more and more, and it's the same theme. The district attorneys, the sheriffs, the chiefs of police, the mayors. At what point does it really sink through that you have these stakeholders in cities and counties across the state of New York all saying the same thing, and there's not much action other than we're open to a discussion. We have to be more than open to a discussion. You have to not talk about it. You have to take action, and we need to get this resolved sooner rather than later. Thank you very much.